is something that I'm still getting used to, because I just didn't grow up in that environment where kids are having parents be there for them like that. Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Kudzie Mapiye, and on this channel I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. And in today's video I'm going to be talking about culture shock again. On this channel I have a few videos about culture shock. If you're interested to learn more about them, you can just scroll down and you'll find them. And these are talking about different things that I've experienced in Australia that I found to be very different to the culture that I am used to in Zimbabwe. So they created a bit of a culture shock for me. And today I just wanted to talk about 3 things that shocked me about Australia, or some of them continue to shock me about life in Australia. And if you're someone who's looking to come and live in Australia, it might be useful to learn some of these things so that you can be a little bit prepared. And I must say, not all of them are bad. I don't think any of them are bad, but it's just things that you'd really like to know in advance so you can just be prepared. So the first thing is fuel. Pouring fuel into your car. Now, this was one of the greatest culture shocks that I have experienced in Australia. So in Zimbabwe, when you go to like a servo or a fuel station, what usually happens is you drive into the station and there's a fuel attendant. There's actually someone who works for that fuel station who works to, and they actually approach your car and they pour fuel into your car, and then you pay that attendant. Now, in Australia, there are no fuel attendants. And I remember being so shocked the first time I had to drive into a servo and no one approached my car. Like, it was like so shocking. And I remember the very first time that I experienced it, I was not actually in a car of my own. Like, I was in a friend's car and they drove into the station and I saw them hopping out of the car and I'm thinking, what are you doing? And they started pouring fuel into their own car, and after that they went to pay for it. And I just thought, oh my goodness, like, there's no one here to pour fuel for you. That is one thing that does not exist in Australia. So you pour your own fuel. And I find this quite annoying now that I've got 2 kids. So I have a child strapped into a car seat. So every time I have to think about pouring fuel into my car, I think about like having to undo the car, like, the buckles on the car seat, take my child out as when I go to pay, and then when we get in there, there's lollies and chocolates and ice cream, and they're gonna be like crying and fussing, wanting to get one thing or the other, and then I pay. Then I come back to my car, I fasten them into the car seat and then drive away. And sometimes just trying to fill your car can be quite a stressful exercise if you have kids that are driving with you. So I always try and schedule my refueling sessions when my kids are off at school, or I can do that by myself. It's just a whole lot easier that I don't have to get everyone out of the car and then get back into the car. And I know some people might be comfortable leaving their kids in the car, but I'm so paranoid about, like, this is like a gas station. Anything can happen. Like, there's so many flammables. And I'm always afraid that if I leave my kids in the car and I walk away to go and pay, like, the whole thing might just blow up and my kids are in the car. So I always take them with me to pay and then take them back with me in the car. So that's one culture shock that I experienced, and something that continues to annoy me about Australia. But anyway, it's all good. The second thing is, now this one I love, and that's just how hands-on Australian dads are. And not Australian dads, but dads in Australia, because it's not just Australian people. I see most fathers in Australia are very hands-on with their kids, and that is something that's quite refreshing. Like, if you're coming from a culture like myself, where fathers have more of a hands-off approach when it comes to raising the kids and participating in kids' activities. So on Saturday, I just took my daughter for her swimming lesson, and because she's still young, we need to get, like, the parent needs to get into the pool with the child. And sometimes in those sessions, I'm the only mom, and it's all dads who are with their daughters or sons, like, you know, in the learn to swim pool. And I'm just like, wow, this is so good. Like, it's so good to see children bonding with their fathers from such a young age, and fathers actually actively participating in the activities of their kids. And when the fathers are in the pool, guys, they're not just like in there thinking, oh my gosh, well, why am I here? They are there, they're smiling, they're enjoying their child's progress. And, you know, it's always so refreshing for me to watch when I see fathers being that involved. And I've seen fathers from all cultures doing this. Like, from, you know, you can tell that some of them are migrants, they've come from other countries, but they have really just taken on that culture and been more active in their child's life. And that is something very good. And if you're a man and you've got kids and you're looking to move to Australia, just want to let you know that in Australia, dads are very hands-on. So if you're not a hands-on dad, that might be a skill that you might want to acquire before you move here. Otherwise, it's, you know, you're gonna find it very different, and your wife might find it very frustrating when she sees other men participating and being engaged, and you've got a more, you know, hands-off approach. And I think it's something so positive when fathers and children bond from early on, because I feel like men will have more empathy towards women and their wives anyway, because they understand what they have to go through with young kids. So that was like a culture shock that was a very pleasant culture shock for me to experience in Australia. And the third thing, the last thing, is also related to, you know, being engaged, being actively engaged in your children's lives, and this is relating to school. So I've been in Australia for 15 years, but I only started to really experience this when my son started school, which was about 3 years ago. Because at school, like, parents are so actively involved in their children's lives. Like, at pickup and drop off, like, the car park is full and parents are walking their kids, you know, to the meeting area where they meet their teachers, or they're walking their kids to the classrooms. Like, and I always think, because, you know, I'm a migrant, and most migrants have to work a lot because we have so much financial grounds to cover. Being a migrant, I found it very difficult at first, having a child in school and having to be so actively involved, like dropping them off at their classroom and then picking them up, and, you know, being very involved in what they're learning about, and, you know, just really being there for your child in their schooling, which was something that I didn't experience growing up. I remember my first day of school, and this was when I had started in a new school. I was in grade 1. It was in the second term, I think second or third term. I started a new school, and I remember my first day of school, I was just dropped off at the office, and someone that I didn't know just walked me to my classroom. And after that, I just walked to the car park. Like, there was no parent interaction, like parent involvement. And it wasn't only my parents, even the parents of the other children in the classroom. Like, I think there used to be, like, you know, very few parents who used to actually walk their kids to class. It wasn't something that was common. And even parents coming to collect their kids from their classroom and greeting the teachers and having a bit of, you know, small talk, it was very uncommon in those days. And mind you, I went to school a very long time ago. So things might have changed, but from my own experience, that was a culture shock for me. And it actually had to I actually had to rethink how I work, because I had to be more flexible in my working so that I can allow more time to be actively involved in my son's school life. And in Australia, most parents take the first week when schools open, they take it off work because they want to be able to walk their kids to the classroom for the first week of school, because every year, you know, you change grades, you've got a new teacher, you've got a new classroom, so they want to be able to, you know, help their child transition. So most parents will take their holidays like on the first week of school's opening. And this is something that I'm still getting used to, because I just didn't grow up in that environment where kids are having parents be there for them like that. And it is quite good. Like, I know my son enjoys it. He loves it when I can, you know, walk him to school, and, you know, when I can pick him up. And also their services, like they have their assemblies and parents are invited, and some of these are at 2:30 p.m. and if your child is presenting or whatever, you're invited to come and see them present. And most workplaces close at the earliest like 4 p.m. So having to go to school at 2:30 p.m. to see a presentation or to see your child getting a prize really requires you to be flexible. And you might actually need to take a day off work depending on what kind of work that you do, but you find that you invest a lot of time in your children. And, you know, that is still something I am adjusting to with my two children. And sometimes I feel this sense of guilt when I see other parents being there for their children in a way that I know that at the moment I can't be there for my kids because of, you know, the way I work or how much I work. And, you know, sometimes I just wish I could have more flexible working, even more flexible than I have now, so that I can be there more for my kids. But that's something that, you know, is a culture shock, and I think most migrants find that challenging when they first come to Australia, the fact that they have to be so actively involved. And you will find that if you do take a bit of a hands-off approach and you're not as involved in your child's schooling in Australia, you will find that your child can lag behind a bit, because there are a lot of emails sent to parents. There are a lot of things that you have to follow up with your kids when they come home from school. So if you're not used to being actively involved, there's some things that you might miss out, and then, you know, your child lags behind, which is not a good thing. So if you're coming to Australia with kids, or you're coming to Australia planning to have kids, you really need to rethink how you work, the type of jobs that you get, and how that will work with the school schedule. So schools in Australia are open from 8:30. I know my son's school opens, they start at 8:35 and they finish at 3 p.m. And most workplaces don't have those kind of hours, so you might need to take a little break in between. But they do have after school care if you can't pick up your kids. That closes at 6 p.m. that your kids can go to. But, you know, sometimes taking them to after school care every single day, they'll be exhausted, and, you know, you'll be exhausted dealing with an exhausted child. So it is something that is, you know, requires a lot of navigation for migrant families. But yeah, those are the three things that continue to shock me about life in Australia. But even though there are those things, I still enjoy my life here. I still enjoy raising a family in Australia. I still enjoy just the lifestyle in Australia. And there are still things that, you know, I'm surprised by, things that I adjust to. But at the end of the day, the only constant thing in life is change. So you have to adjust and, you know, embrace what is different, and yeah, just carry on with life. So that's it from me, guys. I will see you in the next video. If you have any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to share about this video, please put it in the comments below, and I always respond to your comments, and I look forward to engaging with you there. See ya.